Everyone around you is thinking the same thoughts, chasing the same trends, and wondering why they all end up with the same empty bank account. You're not broke because you lack talent or opportunity. You're broke because you think like everyone else. And the terrifying truth is, you don't even realize you're doing it. Your mind has been hijacked by the opinions of the crowd. Every financial decision you've made, every investment you avoided, every risk you didn't take, it wasn't really your choice. It was the crowd's choice, filtered through your fear of standing alone. Conformity kills wealth. The wealthiest people in history, every single one of them, had one thing in common. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't connections. It wasn't luck. It was the ability to think a thought that made everyone around them uncomfortable and then act on it anyway. In the next few minutes, you're going to understand exactly why your brain fights independent thinking, how the wealthy train themselves to tolerate the pain of disagreement, and why mastering this single skill could be the difference between financial freedom and a lifetime of following the herd into mediocrity. Let's begin. The herd trap. Here's something that should disturb you. Your brain was designed to copy other people, not to think for itself to copy. Neuroscientists call them mirror neurons, tiny cells in your brain whose only job is to replicate the behavior and thoughts of those around you. This was brilliant for survival 50,000 years ago. If everyone in your tribe ran from a rustling bush, you ran too, no questions asked. The ones who stopped to think independently got eaten. But here's the problem. Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. That survival mechanism is now your financial prison. When everyone says real estate is the safest investment, your brain screams agree. When everyone panics and sells their stocks, your brain screams sell too. When everyone tells you that starting a business is too risky, your brain screams stay safe. You're not making financial decisions. Your ancient survival software is making them for you. And that software has one prime directive: don't get separated from the group. Conformity. The wealthy understood something the rest never will. In the modern world, the herd doesn't protect you, it traps you. But breaking free from it requires understanding something even deeper about how your mind works. Social proof poison. Psychologist Robert Cialdini identified 6 weapons of influence, and the most dangerous one for your wealth is social proof. Social proof is your brain's shortcut that says if everyone else is doing it, it must be right. Restaurants put fake wait times outside to seem popular. Advertisers say millions sold because your brain interprets popularity as quality. And you, without realizing it, use social proof to make every major financial decision of your life. You chose your career because it seemed like a safe, respected path. You invest in what your coworkers invest in. You spend money on things that signal status to your social circle. None of these decisions were actually yours. They were pre-programmed responses to social pressure. A study from the University of Leeds found that it only takes 5% of a group to influence the direction of the entire crowd. 5%. That means 95% of people are just following without knowing who they're following or why. The wealthy are in that 5%, not because they're smarter, but because they train themselves to question what everyone else accepts as obvious. If this pattern is starting to feel familiar in your own life, hit like and subscribe to reprogram more of your money blocks. The next one might be the belief holding you back the most, because social proof doesn't just influence what you buy, it shapes something far more dangerous. Consensus kills. Here's a wealth principle that will make you uncomfortable. By the time everyone agrees with you, the opportunity is already dead. Think about it. When did Bitcoin become mainstream news? After it had already multiplied 1,000 times. When did everyone agree that Amazon was a great company? After the stock had already made its early investors millionaires. When did the masses finally accept that remote work was viable? After the people who built remote businesses had already captured the market. Consensus equals late. This isn't a coincidence, it's a law of wealth. The moment something becomes consensus, its profit potential collapses. Warren Buffett built one of the greatest fortunes in history with one simple rule. As he put it, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. That's not just investment advice. That's a complete operating system for wealth creation. It means your greatest financial opportunities will always feel uncomfortable. They will always put you at odds with the people around you. They will always make you look foolish before they make you look brilliant. The price of independent thinking is temporary isolation, and most people are not willing to pay that price. Which brings us to the real reason you struggle to think for yourself. Pain of different. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman at UCLA discovered something that changed everything we know about social pain. When you disagree with your group, Your brain activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. The anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that fires when you break a bone, lights up when you hold an opinion that separates you from your peers. Pain. Your brain literally cannot tell the difference between a broken arm and a broken social bond. This is why you keep your unconventional ideas to yourself. This is why you nod along when your friends give you terrible financial advice. This is why you don't start that business, don't make that investment, don't take that risk. It's not laziness. It's not ignorance. It's your brain protecting you from the agony of social separation. Standing alone feels identical to being injured. Now here's what makes the wealthy different. They didn't eliminate this pain. That's impossible. They learned to tolerate it. They built up a resistance to the discomfort of disagreement the way an athlete builds tolerance to physical pain. Every billionaire, every great innovator, every person who created massive wealth did so by enduring a level of social pain that the average person refuses to bear. And there's a specific mechanism that makes this pain even worse. The echo chamber. Your phone is the most sophisticated conformity machine ever built. Every app on it is designed to show you what you already believe, reinforce what you already think, and connect you with people who already agree with you. Algorithm-controlled mind. Social media algorithms don't show you the truth. They show you your truth, reflected back at you 1,000 times until you mistake the echo for evidence. You think you're forming independent opinions when you scroll through your feed, but you're actually consuming pre-filtered reality designed to keep you comfortable, engaged, and buying. A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that exposure to opposing viewpoints on social media actually makes people more extreme in their original beliefs, not less. The more information you consume, the less independently you think. The wealthy treat information differently. They actively seek out perspectives that make them uncomfortable. They read books by people they disagree with. They surround themselves with advisors who challenge their assumptions, not confirm them. As Charlie Munger once explained, I never allow myself to have an opinion on anything that I don't know the other side's argument better than they do. That single habit separates the wealthy from everyone else. But there's an even deeper layer to this problem that most people never consider. Identity prison. The most dangerous form of conformity isn't external, it's internal. You've built an identity around your beliefs, your social class, your financial story, and that identity has become a prison you don't even know you're in. When someone presents you with an idea that contradicts your identity, your brain doesn't evaluate it logically. It treats it as a threat. Psychologists call this identity protective cognition. You will reject facts, ignore evidence, and rationalize away reality, all to protect a story about yourself that might not even be true. Think about how this works with money. If your identity is I'm not a money person, or rich people are greedy, or I come from humble beginnings, any information that challenges those beliefs gets rejected automatically. Not because it's wrong, because accepting it would mean your entire self-concept needs to be rebuilt. You cannot become wealthy while clinging to a poor person's identity. The wealthy don't just think different thoughts. They hold their identity loosely. They're willing to be wrong about who they are. They update their self-concept the way a scientist updates a theory, with evidence, not emotion. As the philosopher Epictetus taught, it is impossible for man to learn what he thinks he already knows. And this identity trap connects directly to the most overlooked wealth skill of all: first principles. Elon Musk didn't revolutionize the space industry by reading what other people thought about rockets. He went back to the raw physics. What are the actual materials needed? What do they actually cost? What are the actual laws of nature involved? This is called first principles thinking, and it is the most powerful wealth skill you've never been taught. First principles wealth. Most people think by analogy. They look at what already exists and make small variations. That's why most people earn small variations of the same salary, live small variations of the same life, and die with small variations of the same regrets. First principles thinkers strip away every assumption and rebuild from the ground up. They ask not what does everyone believe about this, but what is actually true. Not what has always been done, but what should be done. 1. Question every assumption you inherited. 2. Separate facts from popular opinion. 3. Rebuild your understanding from evidence. 4. Test your conclusions against reality. When you think from first principles, you stop comparing yourself to your neighbors. You stop following financial advice from people who are just as broke as you. You start seeing opportunities that are invisible to everyone operating on borrowed thinking, but knowing how to think independently is only half the battle. The other half is having the courage to act on it. Courage tax. Every great fortune has a story behind it that nobody tells. The story of being mocked, the story of being alone, the story of everyone saying you're wrong and having to wake up every morning and bet on yourself anyway. Courage. Jeff Bezos left a high-paying Wall Street job to sell books on the internet. His boss told him it was a good idea for someone who didn't already have a good job. His friends thought he was insane. His parents invested their life savings not because they understood the internet, but because they believed in their son. For years, Amazon lost money. Wall Street called it a failure. Analysts said it would collapse. I knew that if I failed, I wouldn't regret that, but I knew the one thing I might regret is not trying. That's the courage tax. It's the price you pay for thinking independently, and here's what makes it so expensive. The tax is collected before the reward. You pay with loneliness, mockery, and self-doubt for months or years before you see a single return on your conviction. The crowd will always punish you for thinking differently before rewarding you. Most people calculate this cost, decide it's too high, and go back to the safety of consensus. The wealthy pay it anyway, and there's a specific practice that makes paying this tax bearable. Solitude practice. The world's most successful independent thinkers share one habit that most people completely overlook: deliberate solitude. Bill Gates takes an entire week twice a year where he goes to a cabin alone, disconnects from everyone, and just thinks. Warren Buffett spends 80% of his workday reading and thinking, alone. Silence builds wealth. This isn't coincidence. This is strategy. Your brain cannot generate original thoughts while it's being constantly bombarded by other people's thoughts. Every notification, every news headline, every social media post is someone else's thinking entering your mind and pretending to be yours. You haven't had an original thought in weeks, and you don't even know it. Blaise Pascal identified this 3 centuries ago when he wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." Here's your practical challenge. Spend 30 minutes every day in complete silence. No phone, no music, no podcasts, no other people's thoughts, just you and your own mind. It will be uncomfortable at first. Your brain will panic without external input. That panic is the sound of your conformity addiction withdrawing. Push through it. On the other side of that discomfort is where your most valuable, most original, most profitable ideas lie. But solitude alone isn't enough. You need one final piece to complete this transformation: the wealth filter. Let me give you the most powerful tool you'll hear today. It's called the wealth filter, and it's how the independently wealthy make every major decision. Before accepting any belief, investment, or financial decision, run it through these 3 questions. 1. Who profits if I believe this? 2. What would I think if nobody else had an opinion? 3. Am I choosing this or just conforming? That's it, 3 questions. But if you use them honestly, they will dismantle 90% of the financial programming that's been installed in your mind since childhood. Who profits if I believe that a 9-to-5 job is the safest path? Your employer. What would I think about buying a house right now if nobody else had an opinion? Maybe I'd invest that money differently. Am I saving for retirement because I chose to, or because everyone else does it? The moment you start filtering your decisions through independent analysis instead of social consensus, everything changes. Opportunities appear that were always there, but invisible to conformist eyes. Independent thinking is not a talent. It is a discipline you practice daily. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need connections. You don't need luck. You need the courage to think what nobody else is thinking and the discipline to act on it before the world catches up. Every great fortune in history started with a single thought that the rest of the world rejected. Every breakthrough, every empire, every transformation began in the mind of someone who refused to let the crowd think for them. You now understand the mechanics. Your brain is wired for conformity. Social proof poisons your judgment. Consensus kills opportunity. The pain of being different is real, but it is the price of admission to financial freedom. Think different, get rich. The question is no longer whether independent thinking creates wealth. The evidence is overwhelming. The question is whether you have the courage to pay the cost. 30 minutes of solitude a day, 3 questions before every major decision. The willingness to be uncomfortable, to be mocked, to stand alone while the crowd rushes in the wrong direction. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you made it this far, comment independent mind to prove you're ready to separate from the herd. Your mind is either programmed for wealth or poverty. Now you know how to reprogram it. If this video exposed the conformity trap in your mind, hit subscribe. There's more uncomfortable truth coming.